It's outside my window right now. That damn thing. Even though my blinds are drawn, I can still feel its presence. Its eyes, looking through everything and focusing on me. I can feel them, staring at my back while I'm typing this. It's almost painful, to be honest. I'm sweating and shivering and feeling completely sick to my stomach. But there's not much I can do about it now. At least, I don't think I can. Shit. Maybe it's time to just stop. To come to terms with it. I guess it's the punishment I deserve, after all. And only the lucky ones get to walk away from stuff like that and live a happy life. I should have known better. No one would ever call me lucky, after all. Never have, never will. You know, I started writing this down to get my mind off things, to maybe collect my thoughts and try and find a new angle, but I fear that's pointless now. Its eyes are still on me. Oh, this thing is sitting outside my window, on the branch of a tree, waiting for something I can't even fathom. The only thing I do know, it's going to be bad. Really, really bad. A fitting punishment, some might say. Well, I can't say I totally agree with that. It's not like I chose any of this. Then again, maybe I did. So, with that in mind, let me tell you my story. It all started only a week ago. Hardly enough time to change one's life, right? Well, not really. Lives can change in a matter of moments. Often they do. The only problem is we hardly ever know what will change our lives, destroy the path we've been walking on, and throw us into hell beforehand. At least, not until it's already too late. For me, it was a party. Something rather innocuous, if I can be honest. I turned 17 half a year ago, and threw a party as well where nothing bad happened. So, with me being the oldest in my friend group, the other girls followed my lead, and one by one, at every 17th birthday party from then on, we got a little bit more daring. More people, more time, more booze. Miranda had her birthday a bit over a month ago. But with her parents leaving for a conference a week later, she decided to host her party at her house, completely without adult supervision. I was on alcohol duty, and thank fuck I have an older brother who isn't a total loser, since he and his friends were all too happy to supply us with the needed drinks. Honestly, I don't think I've ever driven around with that much booze in my car before, and I don't think I ever want to again either. Not that it matters. I won't get the chance, I fear. Well, the moment Miranda's parents left for their conference, she shot me a text, and I loaded all the bottles into my little hatchback, covered them with a blanket, and set off. Saying I drove cautiously would be an understatement. I crept along the smallest roads connecting our two houses, making absolutely sure I would never need to brake too hard, while looking back through the mirrors to try and spot any police that could come my way immediately. My brother laughed when I retold that story and shook his head. He told me that I would have been noticed by any police officer in our town if they had spotted me. That they would have realized that I was doing something illegal the moment they had seen a car driving around that slowly and cautiously. That I should have just loaded in the booze and behaved like I normally would. Well, I managed to reach Miranda's house without a problem in the end, although I was covered in sweat and shaking when I finally arrived there. We stashed the booze and I helped her, together with some other friends, in setting up. Making room and, of utmost importance, relocating anything that was breakable but couldn't be replaced immediately. Setting up her dad's sound system, taking down some family pictures. We spent the rest of the day doing that, then finally managed to put up the finishing touches before the first people started arriving. Honestly, the party was fucking amazing. I don't know if it was just the booze or if there still was some of the adrenaline coursing through my veins, but I don't think I ever felt that alive, before or since. Finally, I could let go, and yeah, I probably drank a bit more than I should have, especially considering what happened next. It was 10:30 when one of the girls realized that we were running out of beer, and people started asking around what Miranda's parents had in their cabinets. In her panic, she volunteered me to go make a beer run together with the only guy still present who could buy that stuff legally. Of course, he would have been able to do that by himself, but all it took was one glance to realize that the guy was in no condition to drive a car anymore. I piped up immediately and tried to shut that shit down, but it felt like a dozen people were begging me to not let the party die. All they needed was someone to drive the guy, wait in the car, and then come back. It wasn't illegal, they told me, even though I felt the effects of the alcohol in my blood already. I told them that I wasn't feeling sober either, but they didn't care. Maybe if I had pretended to be wasted as well, they would have left me alone. Nah, no way. They wouldn't have cared. My resistance slowly broke down, and in the end I told the guy to get his ass up and follow me to my car, but not before warning him in front of everyone that I would kick him out if he tried anything with me. Honestly, somehow, deep inside, it felt kinda good. People were cheering us, me, as we walked out. And I must admit, I was grinning from ear to ear. The drive to the liquor store was nerve-wracking, even though maybe 2 cars passed us by. With the guy sitting next to me, I was contemplating my options all the time. What if the police stopped us? I would tell them that I was just driving him home and that the stench of alcohol coming from the car was just my friend here, who was legally allowed to drink. It wouldn't have worked. But back then, thinking about it stopped me from spiraling. The guy, by the way, kept his hands completely to himself. Besides a few slurred words, he didn't even try to talk to me. which was kinda fine and kinda not. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't going to flirt with him or something like that, but with my nerves already frayed, I would have appreciated him lightening the mood. Well, we reached a store and I parked far enough away so as to not be seen from inside. Well, I nodded at the guy and promised him I would wait there. He slurred another few words, then finally got out and slowly walked toward the brightly lit entrance. Watching him, I felt kinda strange. Like, I was asking myself what I was doing out there at night, drunk behind the wheel of a car. If my mom or dad had known about it, they would have gotten a fucking heart attack. In the end, I told myself to take a few deep breaths, and I let down the window to get the stench of booze out of my car. Thinking back now, that wasn't a smart move either. If a cop had walked by the store, he would have noticed me instantly and smelled the booze as well. I could have been arrested, which, in hindsight, would have been preferable to what did happen next. As I was sitting there, with my eyes closed and tried to make myself invisible, a sudden noise made the blood in my veins freeze over. Footsteps were coming toward me. Quick ones at that. It sounded like boots, and that noise made me immediately think of the police. In an instant, the whole situation got so clear in my mind. They would see me, a 17-year-old girl sitting in the driver's seat of my car, in the middle of the night, in front of a liquor store, smelling of booze. Even worse, in a few moments, this adult guy would come out, more beer in his hands. I was fucked, I remember thinking, and opened my eyes, tears already clouding my vision. Well, what I didn't see was flashlights or uniforms. Instead, racing toward me was a figure dressed in dirty clothing and an oversized jacket, carrying a backpack full of what looked like old newspapers. He reached my door and put a hand on top of the rolled-down window. I almost screamed as I scrambled to get my body away from him, sure he would try and grab me. But the man didn't. He stopped as soon as he touched my car and lowered his head to look inside. I was still scrambling around, trying to get my hands on anything I could use as a weapon. But I only found a roll of coins. The man was lowering his head to look at me, and for a moment, our eyes met. I'm not sure if it's true, or if I only imagined it. But I think his irises were completely black, through and through. Of course, I froze in shock and fear and watched his old face with the white, greasy hair slowly turning from side to side, as if he was still looking for something. With his sharp, almost beak-like nose, he inhaled, then exhaled through his mouth. And I remember wanting to scream as I smelled this stench of rotten meat entering the car.
"Got any change?"
he asked in this rough, strained voice. I can still hear those words whenever I close my eyes. It sounded so strange, so forced. I yelped, and my foot hit the gas. The car lurched forward, and suddenly, he shrieked. It wasn't a normal scream. Not a human one, at least. The sounds coming out of him were high-pitched as he fell. and my rear tire hit his leg. I could feel it and hear it. A sudden bump, followed by the noise of bones breaking. With a howl, I drove on, looked in the mirror, and could see the man sitting there in the parking lot, holding his injured leg, while the contents of his bag were strewn around. Punched up newspaper, and in between it, glimmering things. Necklaces and rings and the like. I felt a sudden chill as I noticed. Maybe the guy had wanted to steal from me. Maybe those were his trophies, and he was a serial killer. All those fantasies flooded my mind as I turned the wheel and drove toward the entrance of the liquor store. The guy who was buying the beer came out just at that moment. 2 big packs under his arms, and I almost didn't stop to let him in. He jumped as he saw my face, and I pushed open the door, then floored the gas pedal as soon as he had entered. We passed by the man still sitting on the ground, his completely black eyes looking in on me, and then my passenger. Apparently, he had seen it too. He asked me what the fuck had happened, but I could hardly answer. I was completely overwhelmed, scared, drunk and tired. So I drove us back to the house, and only then dared give in to the shock. Shaking and trembling, I sat down outside my car and held my head in my hands while the guy stopped next to me to try and find out what exactly had happened back there. He didn't get a full answer. Between my sobs, I only brought out what I think was incoherent mumbling, but the guy sat down next to me and gave me time. Honestly, I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't sat by my side. Maybe I would have run home, too scared to drive again. Or I might have screamed loud enough to get the attention of the people still partying inside. Whatever the case, I'm glad I didn't have to. The guy told me what he had seen, which is me driving toward him like a maniac, him hopping in, and then the old homeless guy sitting there, staring daggers at both me and him. He asked me if he had attacked me, and I wasn't sure. On one hand, yeah, but not really. I don't know. It doesn't even make sense to me. I'd felt scared and ambushed by him. That much is definitely true. So this guy, Iggy, as his friends call him, told me not to worry too much about it. That there are and always were strange people around. And that the guy only got a good scare when I suddenly drove off. I should have told him about the sound. Maybe that noise of a bone breaking. But I couldn't. We sat there for half an hour when Miranda tried to call me, then came out of the front door and saw us. She let out some salacious comments before she saw my face, then suddenly fell silent and ushered us both back into the house. Iggy disappeared with his friends while mine brought me upstairs and asked me about what had happened. I am sure my story changed again and again every time I tried to recount it, but after what felt like half an hour, Miranda finally seemed content with what I had told her. She stroked my hair and asked the others to give us some space. No one would be coming, she said. If that homeless man went to the ER, they would treat him and send him on. I hadn't done anything wrong. And even if the police showed up, they would simply say that I had been sober all night long. Maybe it was her tone or the reassurance of a hand stroking my hair, but I finally managed to calm down. She brought me a glass of water and told me I could sleep in her room, which I did, thanking her profusely. Honestly, I wasn't surprised I had nightmares that night. I don't know when the party ended or even when Miranda slipped into bed, but I woke up a few hours later, completely drenched in sweat. In my dreams, I saw that raven for the first time. Black feathers, a dark long beak, and eyes like an abyss, burrowing holes into my soul. I'm not sure what the nightmare was about exactly, only that those eyes had followed me throughout it, until I woke up, as terrified as I had been when the old man had ambushed my car. Miranda was snoring next to me, completely oblivious, and I didn't want to wake her up. So I slowly got out of bed. I knew that I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep again, and I didn't want to disturb my friend, so I made my way down to the first floor. Usually, I would have started cleaning up a bit, but quite a few people had decided to crash right there instead of making their way home. So I tried to keep quiet as I snuck through the house. I found Iggy sleeping on the couch in the living room, while the other people were sleeping soundly. He was the only one tossing and turning. I could see it clearly, and somehow I think I felt it. The nightmares he was having. His face was a mask of fear. He was trying to lift his hands and claw at the air, but couldn't. It gave me flashbacks to my own dreams. He was growling, and I reached out to touch his face. His cheek felt ice cold, and as he opened his eyes wide, the first hissed word that came out of his mouth was, "Raven!" I felt that then, for what I think was the first time. Those eyes burrowing into me. But as I turned around in the dark living room, I couldn't see anyone looking at me or even in my direction at all. They were all sleeping. Well, all others besides Iggy, who was now holding my hand in his. He was trembling, and his fears seemed almost infectious.
I think he's here somewhere,
I heard him say. But I could only shake my head. No, there was no one here with us. Nothing had changed. But it felt different. The whole atmosphere. I no longer felt safe at all. "Want me to take you home?" I whispered, and Iggy was up on his feet in under a second.
please.
He answered, still holding onto my hand like a child would its mother's. Together, we made our way out of the house and into my car. This feeling of being watched never abated, though. It only seemed to get stronger. Back then, I thought I was just imagining it. The stress was getting to me, and I was glad that Iggy was by my side. He was looking around the moment we left the house, then suddenly lowered his gaze and pulled me toward the car. Only when we got in and I locked the door did he look at me again.
It's here,
he mumbled, while his still blurry eyes stared at me with a strange kind of urgency.
Let's just go.
We left Miranda's house behind, and I drove us out into the street while Iggy seemed to turn in his seat every few seconds, looking back the way we came. He was searching for something, keeping an eye out for it. My biggest problem was, though, that I could feel it too. Those eyes following us. It was getting weaker, then stronger. Every time I slowed down, it seemed to intensify. I asked Iggy where he wanted to go, where he lived, but he only waved me off while still looking behind us. It was getting worse. I could feel it. So I drove along, trying to find roads where I could speed up a bit more. Of course, I knew the danger if the police were to see us. In all probability, I still had too much alcohol in my blood to drive, but at that moment, I really didn't care.
Shit,
Iggy hissed, then finally turned around and looked forward.
There's a station 2 blocks ahead. You can let me out there.
I drove toward it, and he didn't even let me stop the car before he jumped out and immediately took off running, leaving me alone, with only this dreadful feeling keeping me company. After reaching over and closing the door, I sped off. And I think, out of the corner of my eye, I could see a shadow fluttering past me and to the point Iggy had run off from. I'm pretty sure I didn't imagine that, since the feeling of being watched slowly got weaker and weaker as I drove toward my own home, then finally disappeared once I got out of the car and headed inside. Somehow, I convinced myself that it all would be over now, that this dreadful night would be behind me once I fell into bed. Well, it did kinda seem that way at first, to be honest. I woke up the next day, slightly hungover, yet still feeling a lot better than before. And my life seemed to go back to normal. The rest of the weekend, I mostly spent in bed or in front of the TV, sipping orange juice and getting my mind off what had happened. It worked. Miranda called me sporadically to keep me in the loop of what I had missed at the end of the party. Some light gossip, as we like to call it. Who had made out with whom, stuff like that. Then I asked about Iggy, and her mood shifted considerably. She told me that he changed more and more the longer the evening had gone on. Not drinking, but still looking around, all paranoid. Apparently, he and some of his friends got into a bit of an altercation later on. Nothing physical, but according to Miranda, there had been a few choice words about him hanging out with a 17-year-old outside the house for half an hour. I set the record straight again, but it didn't matter in the end. It wasn't like anyone had honestly thought something had happened. But Iggy had seemed strangely on edge that night, and his disappearing with me when I had woken up had started the rumor mill anew. I sighed and shook my head. It wasn't like I could tell Miranda about what happened without sounding kinda unhinged, I thought back then. But I knew it was too late to stop it anyway. So I just asked her if she could send me his number. She actually did, but told me not to get my hopes up. And I simply rolled my eyes without answering. It wasn't like that. I wanted to tell her, but I really didn't care too much about appearances at that point. The shadow flying after him came back to my mind. The strange atmosphere in the car. I just wanted to know how he was doing. But I didn't call him immediately. Somehow, I was still feeling hesitant. So I pushed it off again and again. Spent the rest of the day talking to my family and just lounging around. I tried to forget. I see it now. To erase the last day and night, and I almost managed it. Only in the evening, just before I went to bed, did I think about it again. About him. The old, dark-eyed man who had ambushed me. His strange behavior. I got my phone and dialed Iggy's number. The call got picked up after the second ring, but instead of a cheerful voice, I only heard loud breathing. Iggy? I asked, then heard the person mumbling. Once more, I repeated his name and got some rustling noises back. I already thought about hanging up, but suddenly, Iggy's voice came through.
Whoever you are, help me, please. It's here.
He sounded completely distraught, panicked, but the call cut out with a shrill noise and left me sitting on my bed, alone and bewildered. Suddenly, I was feeling this chill. My hands were trembling as I tried to make sense of what had just happened. Was Iggy in danger? I was pretty sure of that. Should I call the police? Well, I didn't even know his full legal name, and explaining the situation to them would take way too fucking long. Still trembling, but now sweating as well, I looked at my phone. Something was terribly wrong here, I thought. So, I did the only thing I could do. I called up Miranda and begged her to get in contact with some of Iggy's friends to check up on him. It took me longer to convey what I wanted her to do than I would have liked. But in the end, she promised me she would. That was Saturday evening. I only got the call back the next day around 10 in the morning. It wasn't Miranda, but one of Iggy's friends who called me from an unknown number, and I dreaded it before my phone even rang. I don't know. Maybe I dreamed about it. Maybe it was just a stress. But I felt it deep inside my bones that the news wouldn't be good. And it wasn't. They had tried calling him, but hadn't reached him. Then they had gone over to his apartment and had heard people fighting in there. Luckily, the door was open, so they managed to get in. That's where they found Iggy, lying on the floor, with a broken neck, amidst a bunch of loose black feathers. His friend didn't tell me more, only that it was brutal, and that I should be glad I didn't get to see it. I know what that sounds like. Really. There's no way that what I think happened really happened. But I can't shake this feeling. I am responsible for this. I know it. The atmosphere inside my room changed from that moment. It didn't take long before I started feeling those eyes on me again. The ones burrowing through my walls and curtains. I looked outside that evening, and for the first time I saw it clearly. A raven sitting there on the tree across from my window. It was big, with pitch black eyes that burned with this strange, almost hateful intelligence. This thing hopped around on one leg, holding the second one up as if it was hurt. I told myself that it was just a strange coincidence at first. But those eyes, they seem to burn my soul, if that makes sense. This thing, it won't leave me alone. Every morning, as I woke up, I could feel it, still being there. And every time I looked out of my window, it truly was. This bird has been sitting on the branches of the tree, staring into my room, no matter whether the curtains are drawn or not. When I leave for school, it follows me. When I go out with friends, it's always there. When I come home and go to sleep, it still watches me. I've dreamed of this bird and the man every night, because I think this thing wants me to. In my nightmares, I see it sitting there, staring at me unblinkingly. It's unnerving. Then, 2 nights ago, I think it showed me what happened to Iggy. But I had to witness it from this thing's perspective. The way it perched outside his window, looking, just like it was doing to me. Iggy's form hiding there, rummaging around the box. As he emerged, there was a gun in his hands. He was pointing it at me, at it. A shot rang out, followed by the breaking of glass before the thing was inside the apartment and above him in another instant. I watched him die, screaming and crying. Will I end up like that as well? Lying on the floor of my room while sharp claws tear me apart? I'm not sure. All I know is that this thing is here, outside my window right now. I drove over to the liquor store yesterday evening, trying to find the old man. He wasn't there. Then I asked around, but no one knew who I was talking about. And all the while, this big, one-legged raven was sitting on the power line, following me with its eyes. I even tried talking to it. Mom caught me once, but I think I managed to play it off. This thing didn't answer me. I tried everything, really. Begging for my life, leaving food and the roll of coins on my windowsill. It doesn't move. It doesn't do anything but watch. But I know it will change. I can feel it. Mom and Dad seem to notice my fear as well. I don't know what I should do. If my father finds out and gets out his gun, I fear we will all die. What do I do? What can I do? How do I appease it? I didn't mean to. Shit. I think I just heard it land by my window. Its beak is scratching the glass. Shit. It's coming. I can feel it. Please, help me.